Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and as promised I am continuing this series with part 2. And while this one is dangerous for different reasons and not as bad as the Mr. 3cc's Boston Lloyd one I did in part 1, this video with B-Pak is just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, for a different reason. And it needs to be addressed because you got guys like this who are marketing themselves as coaches who know things, and they're trying to teach people how to train, and they are teaching bad technique, dangerous technique. They don't even know how to perform basic exercises. They don't seem to have any working knowledge of the execution of these movements or how to do them safely or correctly. And now I noticed that this person has a couple different clips of this, and I only pulled one, and all of his nut huggers are saying to people, well, you know, you can't talk shit. Either look at his development, or you couldn't even walk that weight out, or you couldn't do it. It's still 585 pounds. Well, guess what, guys? You're not going to say that shit to me, because I can do the range of motion he's doing with a heavier weight than he's using. And I promise you that this guy is less than a 500-pound squatter. If he were to do an actual squat, not a half squat, not a quarter squat, but an actual squat, he is way below 500 pounds. Anybody who knows what they're looking at would see what he's doing and say, yeah, there's no way this guy squats 500 plus. And so let's get that shit out of the way right now. You're not going to play that little silly game with me because I'm fucking stronger than this guy. So let's go ahead and roll the clip. You know, I might not be a gynecologist, but I know a cunt when I see one. Okay, where do we begin here? The real issue here is that he is essentially doing half squats, maybe higher than half squats. It's hard to tell with the shitty spotter in the way blocking the camera, which I don't know why the fuck he's using a human spotter on a heavy squat, a single spotter. It's not going to save you. If you miss a rep with the weight you're using that you're clearly too weak to handle, you're going to be permanently injured whether that spotter's there or not. You're just going to take him out with you. So nice job in endangering someone else, fuckhead. Instead of using the rack, which is what you should be using. And that's what the crux of this comes down to. He is using a weight that clearly, if you watch the eccentric reps, the way he's having to brace his hips and roll his lower back down and everything, his glutes and his hips are giving out. They're not strong enough to handle the weight he's trying to use. At the midway mark, they're giving out, and he's having to come back up because he can't go any lower without ripping something. And if that bar goes accidentally 3 inches lower, 4 inches lower, he is going to rip something in one of his hips, and he's going to crush to the floor, and he's going to be fucked. And normally that would be fine, that he's going to injure himself, because eventually if he keeps doing this silly shit without knowing how to perform a basic squat or pick appropriate weights to use for the correct range of motion and do it safely inside of a rack, which is what you should be doing for partial squats so that you have metal, and he does it outside of the rack. So essentially this guy's pretending to be a coach, and he's basically a fucking idiot who doesn't even know how to use a squat rack correctly. That he is going to end his own career the first time he accidentally goes too low and doesn't have the metal protect him and just has the jackass standing behind him who's also a fucktard if he's dumb enough to think he's going to be helpful. So fuck him too. But if it goes wrong, his career is over. That's it. He's done as a bodybuilder. He is going to be injured, and he's probably going to have to retire, because he doesn't know how to use a power rack. And normally I wouldn't care. That would be great. I would see, great, let's get rid of this idiot. Fuck him. He won't be able to hurt other people anymore, but that's the problem. He's going to take other people out with him because he has now demonstrated this to all these people, the fans he has, of this is how you do a heavy squat, if you want to call it a squat. And then they're going to go try to do it with weights that they can't handle. And they're going to do these partial squats outside of a rack, just like he is, instead of touching down on the pins to do pin squats, which is basically what he's trying to do for heavy overload at the top. They're going to do the same thing. They're going to injure themselves also. So he's going to take out young, innocent people who are just too ignorant to know better, which isn't their own fault because they're new to the game. He's going to take them out with him, and that's the downside to it. Fuck him. I mean, if he's that dumb, then, you know, and he's been doing it this many years and he can't learn basic physiology or read a basic book on how to perform a squat, like Starting Strength or something, then fuck him. But he's taking other people out with him, and that's why it needs to be addressed. And this goes back to the point of, I always make with these guys, most pro bodybuilders and top bodybuilders, they're not where they are because of how they train or their work ethic or how good their programming is. They are where they are because of their extremely high tolerance to creatine and whey protons. That is the defining genetic characteristic of an IFBB pro. Their ability to handle massive amounts of these things without suffering the same side effects, health problems, or dying like the rest of you would. That's how they get that big. They can handle massive amounts that you probably can't handle. They generally know more about actual training than most of you. They generally don't even train harder than most of you do, to be perfectly honest. Some of them do, a lot of them don't. You can't tell by looking at them which ones do. It is their capacity to handle large amounts, and that is how they get big, not their training. And this is another perfect example of someone who is marketing themselves on knowing about training, but when you observe what they do, they clearly cannot even correctly perform the most basic of exercises taught in high school football rooms to teenage athletes around the world in every sport known to man. They can't even do them correctly. It is purely their supplementation that is allowing them to get their results, not their knowledge. Clearly, this is another example of one of those. So don't buy everything that you hear from these guys when they try to teach you how to do these things, because if you do what's being shown here long enough, you will get permanently injured. It's complete bullshit. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.